Okay, on the subject of drowning, though, last year we were not in this nice new building. We were in, I don't know, what was the name of that building? Yeah, and we were in the basement. And like one day it was raining like this, and literally water just starts pouring in the windows. And so Davey's trying to teach, and there's literally like an inch of water on the floor, and it just keeps getting deeper. And so then the maintenance guy comes in, and he's got like that massive like vacuum, like floor vacuum, you know, with like the squeegee on it and everything. And so Davey's like yelling to be heard over this thing, and the guy's just got the vacuum going. Like, yeah, that was pretty great.
Then we were out of that room for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, it was more than that. Yeah, it was like 4 weeks before they finally got that room fixed. Yeah, so consider yourselves lucky to be in this building this year. Because apparently they got wet enough that it got all moldy, like the whole basement did, and then, yeah. All right, how we doing? Holy cow. All right, we're going to have to move on. Just pay attention to the directions. So if you have changed directory into your project, then we need to initialize the Git repository. So do the git init. Oh, my word. I mean, I don't care if you did, because like Davey said, we're not helping you if you didn't change directory. Okay, so git init, and then we can do git add, right, to add all the files that we just made. And then git commit -m, initial commit. Go ahead and commit that. So now we have a local repository, or a local Git repository. We have at least one commit in it. So now we can push an existing repository from the command line. So copy these two by hitting copy to clipboard. And then just paste them in here and hit enter to run them. So again, only reason I'm not doing this is because we already did this morning. So git init initializes an empty Git, or not empty, a Git repository in your current directory. And then you do git add to add all the files that create React app made. And then do a commit to commit all those files to your Git history. And then copy these two commands, which, if you read them, adds the origin at your GitHub repository, and then pushes your local history to your remote. Once you got that done, you should be able to, you can do either thing. You can either hit refresh on the page or just click this link again. And then you should end up with something that looks basically like this. Did everybody make it there? Almost.
Half of us drowned.
You have died of dysentery. All right. So, we made a basic create React app. We got our Git repository initialized. Push it up to GitHub so we have on our remote. Well, now we know we're going to need routing in this application, right? So we need to add React Router. So I am going to make a new branch. You don't need to do this step. I'm just going to make an afternoon branch. And we are going to yarn add React Router DOM. If you do not have yarn, that's npm install React Router DOM. So what that does, it's going to download React Router DOM into our node modules. It's also going to add it to our package.json, so anybody else who clones our repository can just run the yarn install or npm install to get the appropriate packages. So let's open this up in VS Code. Close all this stuff. Why is it still showing everything? What the heck? Why does it have everything? Am I in the right directory? Yes. Oh, I know why. Because I went directly from morning to afternoon instead of going to master first, which doesn't have all that stuff. There we go. All right, so theoretically, if you look at your package.json, remember these three, React, React DOM, and React scripts, that's all added by create React app. We just added React Router DOM to it as well. So that's all good. And then, so step one was get the package into our project. Does anybody remember the second step for using React Router?
Surround app.
Yeah, nice memory. And what file is that in? Index, right? So in our index, we are going to import browser router. And then, since browser router is a really long name, I'm going to use the trick that you can use with imports and tell it what I want to call it. So I'm importing browser router, but I'm going to call it router from React Router DOM. And then, as Chris said, we are going to wrap app in a router. Let's put this on multiple lines so it's a bit easier to read. So here around app, we're just going to put router. So essentially, we're just importing the router from React Router DOM and then putting it around so our entire app is a child of the router. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that. Say add React Router and wrap app in router. Now you guys already did the push-u origin master. I assume you're still on master branch. So from this point on, we're just going to use the tools in here now that we've set it up as our default push location. And since we haven't actually seen what any of this looks like yet, let's go ahead and start our server. So just do a yarn start. And what you should see at this point is just the boilerplate stuff that you get when you do a brand new Create React app. Everybody got their server up and running? So this obviously is not what we want it to look like. We want it to look like this. Go back to the home page. So let's get rid of the stuff we don't need and put in stuff we do need. So step 1. Don't need that spinny logo. We don't need that H2 that says welcome to React. Get rid of those. We don't need this app intro. Get rid of that. Since we aren't using the logo anymore, we don't need this import. And then what we do need, let's add another div here that will give a class name of app headings. Put in an H3. And an H1 under that. It says, ain't no party like an API party. Is that font big enough for people in the back? You guys good? Okay. So theoretically, we should be able to look here. Cool. Got rid of all the content we didn't need. Just need to do some styling to make it look like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So open up our app CSS. Let's see, what do we not need? We don't need the app logo. We don't need the app intro. We got rid of that. And we don't need anything to make the non-existent logo spin. So we'll keep these two. We do need a different font. Let's see here. And drop the link for the font into Slack. So just put that import statement at the top of your CSS file. And then we're going to use that font for the whole app. So for the app as a whole, we're setting the font family to Gentium Book Basic. If that doesn't load for some reason, then we're just going to use a normal serif font. Let's do style that H1. It's not nearly big enough yet. We're going to say have you guys seen this kind of thing, kind of rule before?
Is that height by width?
Close. So what it is with a font declaration is this is the actual size of the font, and this is the line height. So this one's like a compound rule. We could do it all separately, like font size and line height separately, but if you just say font, then you can declare all the rules together. But the two sizes separated by a slash are going to be the font size and the line height. And then you can also inline tell it what fonts to use. And let's make it always uppercase. And then for the H3, let's make that one italic and a bold 400 weight. And then last but not least, we added this extra div here with app headings. So I'm just going to change this rule from header to headings. And I think that should, yeah, that's much nicer. All right, so we got our header, which doesn't change, looking pretty good. So what do we need to do next? Looking at this, you can see when we are at the base route here, so just basically at our domain, we get these links, which are always here, and then this part changes, right? This is here only when we don't have some other route in here. So we got a few choices. We can click on this to get /GitHub, this for /NASA, this for /homework, or this is kind of like the default when none of these other ones match. You guys know of any structure or, so like, what would you use in a programming language when you have a bunch of options to choose from and you want to choose one of them? Yeah, like a switch statement. So, we didn't talk about it in the presentation, but the good thing is React Router does give you a switch option. So let's go ahead and import that. So let's import route and switch from React Router DOM. Oh yeah, before I get too much further, I'm going to make a commit real quick. Add header content and style it. So, we said that kind of our default route is going to be the one that just shows this, right? So we're going to show this particular thing whenever we don't match one of these other ones. So, still within our main app div, but not part of the header. So right outside of it, we're going to put in a switch. And then we can add a route. Now, normally on a route, we would tell it a path that we want it to match, right? In this case, we just want it to match whenever one of the other ones doesn't match. So it's not a specific path. So if we just don't give it one, then it's always going to match as long as one of the other ones hasn't matched, right? So as long as we're inside that switch statement, it's only going to match one route in there. So for the default route, we're just not going to give it a path. It's going to be the last one, just like a default in a switch case. So if nothing else matches, then it's going to do that one. But what we are going to do is just have it render something. And we'll give it an anonymous function that returns some JSX. And that JSX is just going to be a p tag that says, to get started, click one of the links above.
So the switch tags make it so that if none of the other options are clicked, it'll show that.
So if I have routes inside a switch, then that means only one of those routes can match at a time. So whichever the first route is that matches, that's the one it's going to render. And so what we're doing is we're just doing the default route first. So this is eventually going to be at the bottom of our list. And so it's going to look and see if all those other routes above it match. And if it does, it's going to render that thing. If none of them match, then we're going to hit this one. Yeah. So let's see if that works. Right now there's no other routes, so it definitely should render it. And it does, right? So we see it on there. So that's cool. Not very exciting, but you just made your first route. So now, let's add an actual link in here so we can click it, go to a different route, and render something different. So what do we use with React Router to link to something? NavLink or link. I agree we should probably use NavLink since we're probably going to want to style the active link differently. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll also import NavLink. And then right below our headings, but still inside this header div, we're going to do a UL with a class of NavLinks. And in each LI, we are going to put in a NavLink. And then it gets a to property. And where do we want to link to? It's just the path we want to go to, right? So we're just going to go to /GitHub. And then we'll put the content of the link, which just says GitHub API. And then, if we're now able to link to here, we should probably have a route that matches that, right? So we'll go ahead and add another route. And remember, you want to make sure you add it above the default route because we want it to try to match this one first and only fall to the default route if it doesn't match. So the path, we actually do have a defined path now. It's just /GitHub. And for right now, let's just do another render. So when we match GitHub, let's just do an H1. It says GitHub. All right, so we have a way now, we have a link on the page that'll link us to this. And when we do go there, then now we're going to match this path. And we're going to should render this H1 instead of this paragraph, right? So now we've got our link. It's not very pretty, but that's fine. And we click it, and you can see we get a different component now, right? And then if we take that back off again, now we're back to that, and that. Excellent. First routing complete. Let's go ahead and commit that. And route for GitHub. Yeah. For the app? Yeah, I can do that. We're about to add some more styling anyway, so I'll just do the whole thing. So, as you can see, this looks pretty terrible. So let's get the styling for that. So first I'm going to give you, this is a few more rules, so I'm going to put the whole thing in Slack, but we'll talk through them. So if you just add that to the bottom of your app CSS, and then separately, I'll give you all the stuff that is currently in app CSS. In case you didn't already have that. So what we added, said for everything in our UL with the class of NavLinks, list style none, that takes off the bullets that you saw on the LI. Take off the left padding because it was a little bit off center because it had left padding on it. Display inline block, so they still have a fixed, like a defined width, but now they can show up next to each other. They're not going to be, if we add more links without doing that, they would be like vertical. Change the color to blue. Make the text decoration none so it's not underlined. Make the font size a little bigger. So this is the part where we're defining a different style based on that active class. So since it's a NavLink, when we click on it and it matches the active route, it's going to add this .active class for us. And so then we can style it differently, make it orange. And when it's active and we're hovering over it, make it a little bit lighter. And then just a normal hover state for the link. So now, if we go look at it, you can see we're at /GitHub already, so now it's orange. If we do an inspect on this, so you can see it's got the active class. If I take that off, now I don't have a class on there. But as soon as I click it again, because right now the URL is not matching where this links to. As soon as I click it, it does, and you can see it went ahead and added the class of active for us, so we can style it differently.
So how did you get that centered on the page, or does it automatically center itself?
This part?
Yeah.
Well, we had in our app text-align center, so the whole app is text-align center. And then it was off just a little bit because it had the left padding on the LI specifically, but we took that off here. So we just told it to have 0 padding on the left side, and we took that bullet off with the list style none, so there wasn't anything shoving it to the right anymore. Style the nav links. And with that, we are basically at the halfway point, so let's, it's a good spot to take a break because now we have a link to get to another route. And then when we come back, we'll make the actual component for that route. So